First order, we're going to table number 4, which is the executive session. So the first order of business is discussion on cameras on the officers. We're doing a bunch of research with other jurisdictions, police departments, about different ways.
Can we have a discussion about the agenda, or can we ask a question about the agenda?
I've already discussed that with some other folks from Europe, and we will be talking with you. Sorry.
No, I just have a question because.
Okay. What is your question, sir?
My question is, there's a crisis here that's centered on public safety conduct, the leadership of public safety. We've had mobilization in the community, and I think that should be discussed as opposed to security cameras. That's like discussing, weather vanes in the middle of, for the future, in the middle of a Hurricane Sandy. I don't understand. It seems surreal to me that we would be discussing security cameras when the community is demanding that Guerra and Bryant and that brutal regime get the hell out of here. So I don't understand why we're discussing security cameras when the crisis is that.
Okay.
Not that I'm against security cameras.
Okay. The first order of business is trying to figure out we're working towards trying to figure out how to hold public safety accountable so that we have evidence-based actions. Now, there are a variety of ways we can accomplish this. One, people say, is blanket the island, as they do in downtown Manhattan. And in other jurisdictions I've spoken to, they have various cameras in cars. They have, but we don't have that. We have people doing vertical patrols. We have close-in. We have corridors. We have other problems. We would not be able to show one way or the other exactly what the actual public safety are to the public, what everyone is seeing, and holding things down to an actionable record. So, and the question is that for the short, medium, and long term, how do we adjust some of these behaviors, okay, and hold people accountable so that you have a record that is actionable? So the first item I'm looking at is how can we collect actionable information so that things can be proven? One is looking at cameras, better camera equipment. That's first. There's a whole series of items on here. If you don't want to hear about this topic, you can even come back to the next topic. So the first item
I'm discussing the question that is primary right now, which is the leadership of public safety. You talk about actionable whatever. We had 300 people on Saturday, one after another, that got up and talked about what has happened. We have compiled, the Public Safety Committee of RIOC has compiled and is continuing to compile a comprehensive list of abuse, misconduct, brutality, violence, lies, and cover-up on the part of the Guerra-Bryant regime. That's what the community is demanding, and you are in a position where you can move on that. And instead, we're discussing cameras.
Sir, I have an agenda of variety of items. This is the first item of one. Okay, now, as far as that list you're compiling, I have not received that list yet. When I get that list and we review the list, we'll make actions at that time. But I have not received that list yet.
Did you read the wire this week?
Yes. And I was there. Okay, so as far as the camera goes, what they are out to do is that there are a variety of body-mounted cameras that are used by police departments around the world, and they are also used by several military forces. And they're good, one, because they hold the wearer accountable, because what they see, what actions they take, how they interact with the public is recorded in a way that they can't deny, or holding them accountable. Now, there's a series of different vendors that we're researching and discussing with. So, as a pre-contract item, I can't go into all details because we have to put out a bid and have the vendors come in. I wanted to make the public aware that one of the leading vendors of these devices is taser. I'm discussing with them not the weapons, but their line of cameras that enable us to record what the officers see and what's going on. Now,
the way an operations advisory committee works is we'll discuss this as an advisory committee, and if we feel it's a good idea, after we talk to vendors and things like that, then we'll recommend it to the board for a vote or for further discussion.
Yes.
So people know that it's a process, like everything else is a process.
Okay. So that's one of the items we're looking at as far as holding public safety accountable is getting that in play, and we'll be putting it in an RFP, sending it to the board, getting contractors in here to take care of that. The second issue is the public safety main office public areas. We've discussed with the contractors, they've expedited if we're going to have those cameras running.
The contractor said that they'll begin installing the cameras on March 4th, and it takes 3 to 5 days, so they expect them to be operational around March 8th.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about the cameras
In the public safety lobby.
Yeah, they should have been there from the go. I was surprised to find them. I'm not performing for you. I'm talking to my fellow committee members.
Right.
We usually have microphones here. We don't today.
But we're here it's a public meeting.
We should have had those cameras in from the go. I was surprised to hear that we not.
Yeah.
But back to the other one, the original, the first item. I'm familiar with such cameras in the front of a patrol car. Probably every patrol car in the country has one now. So the officer makes a traffic stop. What he does, and what the person he has stopped, how they interact with each other gets recorded. Do we have any sense yet that body cameras have that widespread applicability?
Yeah, I've done some research on them, and I've had some experience actually with them in other places of the world. There's a series of different types of them. Some are called body chest-mounted cameras, and they have the advantage that they don't really impede with the person that much. The challenge with those is that it's flush with your body, so that when someone is confronting you, and you reflexively turn into a low-profile position, the camera tends to point away from the subject. So even when I was looking through some of the vendors' videos of those cameras, sometimes when the officer was handing a summons or doing other actions, the camera turned away. There's also there are helmet-mounted cameras, and but they didn't look as flexible because they're heavy and they have a headrest. Another set were glasses-mounted cameras, and those are really small and light. And those ones I've seen used by various military forces and some police officers in the West Coast. Those cameras have those are called point-of-view cameras. The advantage of that is that whatever you're looking at, the camera is picking up. So when you are engaged with the person or something distracts you, something's going on, you instinctively turn toward what's going on, and it'll record everything. It records the voice of the officers, any comments that are made. It records in low light at night. There's video of them working at night. So it's a very effective way so that it is used, one, so that it's not the word of the officer or the word of the subject. They have a digital recording of what happened. Two, it's also used for training purposes so that the officers can review how they interact with the public. Could they have diffused the situation better? Through amongst their peers in a training, they can say, could we have handled the situation better? Because they have an objective recording of what happened from the point of view of the officer and the officers around them. So we're looking into that. Like I said, there's a variety of different vendors in that. We're going to investigate, a bunch of them, have them come in, demonstrate their equipment, figure out what it costs, and all that. So that will be done from the operations committee. We'll get that done as quickly as possible so we can make a recommendation to the full board.
Michael, do we know if there are new issues that come?
I had some discussions with some both police officers and other folks. Some of the unions had issues with it because they said it invaded their privacy of their peer conversations when they're on duty. Other police officers said at first there was objection to these cameras because of that, but the policy set by their organization were because most places outside of New York, you radio in and you go on break, for coffee or bathroom, and you radio in and you're back on patrol. And they were allowed to turn the cameras off when they go on a break or when they're not on active patrol. They are required, and it is a disciplinary action, if the cameras are not turned on when they're on active patrol. They've discovered that at first they thought it was a problem, but they found that it resolved so many more situations in a car that now they like it, and you feel they don't want to drop it out. So that will be whether our local police union will have an issue with that. We can't speak for them. The best I can do is that I can try, if they decide they have an issue, I can try to have them speak to some of the other police forces who are employed and what their experience with it has been.
And I think we can give you a position of what rules on that.
Yeah.
We'll discuss.
Okay. Again, the cameras in the public safety area, people asked why weren't those areas covered. It was part of the original contract, hadn't been done. We've expedited it, will be done. So that's closed.
I may be wrong, but my recollection of this was that there were cameras there before that were not part of the whole wiring of the whole island, all the other cameras that were gone.
Yeah, there were supposed to be some cameras in there.
Yeah, but I mean, there were some before that didn't have anything to do with this whole rewiring.
From,
When we reconstructed it.
Yeah.
Well, that place was gutted and it was rebuilt.
Right, and I thought they put in cameras then, and then
I
I
thought so too,
came with the
they
whole
did.
wiring, everything,
Yeah.
this is bouncing off that, and they didn't put them right in public safety because they thought they already had cameras, they just weren't, they were gonna hook them up to the rest of the system later on, but that was my understanding back then. That's
Yeah.
why they weren't the first ones to go in.
Okay. So that's, we'll be covering all the areas where public safety interacts with public in the offices and around the public areas where the officers, where subject might be. We're going to have, hopefully, have cameras on the officers who are out of patrol at all times so that we will know what they're doing and we will have objective data. We can then bring before some form of review. We have to figure out how we're going to do that. To review the behavior of the officers, review the behavior of the subjects, and see whether or not we need training, additional work, or just for peer review to say, when you interact with this person, how could you have used verbal methods better? That's an excellent training tool. Let's see. Third item is we're going to be bringing in an outside consultant. Again, we're completing the RFP to as far as what exactly we need and want them to do, and get that posted so that we will have an outside company or consulting group of some kind review all the policy, procedures, training, and other actions against for public safety.
well, I understand we're fast tracking the process. We
Yeah.
get this thing going much quicker than we would.
Okay.
I believe it was done today.
Yeah, the RFP was. I don't think it's been posted yet, but
No, I
completed the RFP.
The discussion, the online discussion was today.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we have to approve it with the send it to the board. So.
No, I don't think, no,
No?
it's going out, and I think.
RFPs go out all the time.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
the
We got
last,
the final
got the
comments.
final
Final
comments,
comments
right?
of today. We'll have one read through tomorrow, and likely go out tomorrow.
Okay.
okay, that's
Great.
what I thought. Okay, that's what it's tomorrow.
So that's going to get us the immediate, as soon as possible, top to bottom review of public safety. Okay, things we have already done. We've put public safety on notice that we are doing, as a board, I've done a couple, just random inspections, where I'm going to the public safety offices at any time, day or night, my usual hours, and checking up on them, making sure they are where they're supposed to be, who's on duty, who's in charge, We've also put in place notification to the board that if any level of force is used, handcuffs and up on a force rider, that the board is immediately notified. So if the complaints that we're not tracking what's going on, we're going to be notified what's happening. Where there's various groups.
What do you mean by board?
The operations committee.
The
RIOC board.
Will we notify by who?
By the officer in charge.
The officer in charge that could be spying with his work with the force? He's supposed to report that?
No, if anyone is handcuffed or maced or brought or anything on the force ladder, you're standing orders that the board be notified.
From the officers who are using excessive force. That's what you're expecting?
They're supervisors.
The supervisors who are supervising the officers that they know are using excessive force continuously, they're supposed to report that?
Well, the issue to think about is if we give them standing orders as a board and they violate standing orders, then that's something we can act on. If we have cameras that have evidence of what they're doing, then we have something we can act on.
Well, Mike, to tell the truth, you've said it before. I know Howard commented that when he was on the River Public Safety Committee, people brought complaints to him all the time. Excuse me. People brought complaints to him all the time, and he asked them for, make a formal report, and they wouldn't because they were afraid of being intimidated by public safety. We asked public safety for a formal report. I think it's a good thing, I guess. I'll think about something else in a minute. But again, it's the people who are arresting the individual. They're the ones who are making the report to us about what they're doing, and people could criticize that. I have to say that I think your problems are less with public safety than they are with your board of directors. To tell the truth, I'm not saying that we were not we were lax in any way, but in fact, public safety should have been taking their leadership and guidance from us for 20 years, 25 years, and we're only now at the point where we're establishing day-to-day policies. Public safety, the kind of stuff Mike's talking about. So we're behind the 8 ball there. We should have been out in front of the issue from the go, we weren't. And so now people are unhappy. That doesn't mean that all this crap that you're talking to us is true or right. Some of you are famous on the island for making stuff up. You just are. And then go back, I'm on the Rock 34 years. I'm on this board 19 years, and I know my neighbors. I live in 540, in the 4th floor hallway of 540. There ain't much that goes on in my building that doesn't happen in that hallway. So people tell me what's going on in my hallway, I just know it's not true. I know what public safety is doing in my hallway, 540, 4th floor hall. I know what problems on this island start with 540, 4th floor hall. I've been in that hallway 34 years. So not everything we hear. If he calls on you, you can speak, sir. But frankly, you all meet, we all have a big meeting. I saw 90 people outside, a couple hundred inside.
We have a dictatorship among the people.
What?
A dictatorship among the people.
Sit down and shut up, you moron.
You are a very bad person. That's why you're up there. That's why you're up there.
Nasty attitude.
You don't represent nobody. But bad people. But you can't
public safety.
Excuse me, I haven't been on this island many years, but it doesn't matter. Like you said, you stay out of the eye of whatever, you stay on your hallway, you know what goes on in your building. That doesn't say that you know exactly what's going on at all times. Because there's an abuse of here, and I'm going to say what I have to say. I have been, because of my car, I have been mistreated on this island where I live. I can't even park on this island, and I feel so, I've got so many tickets over here. I mean, just for just parking and going upstairs to my house. I know that's getting away from what we're talking about. But what I'm saying is that there has been abuse of power on this island over the residents. And if we come to public safety and say, well, you're a resident, what does that mean? That means we're like an outlaw, a prisoner or something? Yeah. We have no say-so in anything. And I don't know, you've been here for 34 years. I haven't been here that long. But I don't feel like I'm a Roosevelt Islander anymore. I feel like I should be living somewhere else, really. Because I have not been treated fairly. And my family has not either. I'm not saying they're perfect. But the point is that the way that we have been treated on this island is very unfair. And I don't cause trouble, and I don't sell drugs. Okay? I've never spoken in public about this since 2008. But I have to say this. Roosevelt Island officers ran in my home in 2008, pepper sprayed my ex-fiance and beat him in my house, and drug him out in front of my children, so much that we had to run out of my apartment. Are you saying that that's okay? When I went to Mr. Guerra, he justified it. He said it was okay for them to do it. They have to do what is necessary. No, it's not. As a matter of fact, my ex-fiance won a case, and it asked him to write a gag order so he didn't have to talk about it. I'm not under that gag order. I can speak about it now. They have been doing this for years, and it's okay. It's not okay anymore. It's not okay. Right on.
Sorry, my name is Bryn, and I'm on the Public Safety Committee, and I wanted to direct my question to you, Mr. Yeah, loudly. Sorry. I just want to make a suggestion that what I'm hearing from complaints that are coming into public safety, and I really appreciate everything you said about the cameras and everything you proposed. What I'm hearing that I think would be helpful is that they want an accountability that if you were saying about if pepper spray or handcuffs or any of this was used, that they wanted it to be reported to the RIOC board. And what I'm hearing is that they're afraid that it's not going to be reported. And what I was wondering from you is if there is some kind of a disciplinary action that the board is willing to present to the public safety if they don't report it to you. In other words, they're saying, we're going to report it to you, and they're saying, no, they're not going to report it to you. And I'm saying perhaps if you had some kind of a disciplinary action that if they did not report it to you, that you, as the board members, would put into a disciplinary action for not reporting it. That might be helpful.
That's something, some of the recommendations we're asking the consultant to look at for us, because there's a lot of union laws, and there's a lot of regulations around what police can and can't do, what we can and can't do. So we need to get advice. We're going to hire somebody to tell us how can we put into some kind of framework that we understand how that should be executed on. We're trying, we've getting some advice from NYPD and other folks. Part of the challenge that we have is that, we're volunteers, we have day jobs, and we're not here. So if you say that we can't, that there's something going on, and we need to know about, one of the reasons why I'm familiar with these cameras is that from my other part of my day job is that they're digitally timestamped and recorded, so that we can put in standing orders that if they're ever on patrol, and the cameras are not on, we can give disciplinary action. We don't know what we can do yet. That's where we get the advice and the structure. How can we put this stuff in place? What we can do is see. I'm going to just get there. Wait a second. I promise. What we can do is say is that if we need to review what happened, okay, and everyone says, well, the officer says this, and they're lying. You got to say that. And the when the officer says, no, this is what I saw, this is what happened, this is the force that we used, and we weren't there, how do we establish the fact? So that's why I'm trying to look at how can we put into the framework some way we can collect information and do these things and say, okay, if they're out on a call, if they're out and these cameras must be on, if they try to erase them, we will know. If they're not on, we will know. If they are on and there's multiple officers, then you have the advantage of multiple perspectives because each officer is filming and viewing from slightly different angles. You can see and hear, because it's audio recorded as well, exactly what was said and what was done. And then we can review it as some kind of review board. And that's another thing we're trying to figure out what we can do. We're getting some advice from Albany that there's legislation from Helner, there's advice from other folks, other citizens, Ben Kalos's organizations, trying to give us some advice on some things we can do. There's a variety of places where we're getting advice, but as we're kind of new in the game, as far as the board, so we got to figure out what we can and can't do. And what is provable, what is not. Okay, you can patient.
The recommendations that you guys are saying that you want to put in place sounds great. I must admit. They have to call you guys if someone's put into handcuffs, body cameras. It all sounds great. But all of this has been happening far too long. Okay? Now you guys say that you guys don't have evidence of this stuff. Let's just look at the video from the deli when my son was arrested. For what? Standing in front of the deli. Is that a crime? I don't know. Do we want to see it on Roosevelt Island? I don't. I've told him many times that he shouldn't be in front of the deli, but he was. When public safety pulled up, he decided to go into the store. The other kids that he was with walked up the street, and he said that was his mistake because he decided to go into the store, which meant that he was trapped. He went into the store. He didn't run into the store. It showed a calm kid walking into the store, getting a soda, and calmly walking out. He didn't even think that public safety was coming after him. And you could tell in his body demeanor that he wasn't scared, he wasn't afraid until they came after him. You understand? The deli person, that first deli person in the white shirt, stopped my son's friend from going up the aisle. He stopped him, and they both stood there and watched public safety tackle my son to the floor and put handcuffs on him or whatever. Other public safety officers walked into the deli, and you see one who obviously wasn't in a big rush to do what he was about to do because he came here with a coffee cup in his hand. Put the coffee cup on top of the freezer and walked back to the guys that was with my son. Whatever they told them, they turned around, arrested the deli guy, and arrested my son's friend. On their way out, the other deli man is standing there and said something to public safety, and they immediately turned around and put cuffs on him too. Now, in the public safety blog online, it states 5 men arrested for disorderly conduct, refusing to leave the area, what's the other one? Resisting arrest, and what's the other one? OGA. Now, let's say my son was out in the street acting crazy. Then he decided he wanted a soda and left the scene that they said he refused to leave and came in there and arrested him. All of those people spent nights in jail. For what? And that video alone, y'all should fire him. Okay? Just what happened to Anthony, that man right there, Torrance, should be fired. He should have been. He should have been. Should at least be not on the job every day with investigation? You have the video.
I don't need the video.
I filed
I need
many complaints.
I need
Many
dates,
times
time.
I filed complaints.
What's your
to
name?
public
What's your
Rakiba
name?
Francis, Jared Francis,
All right.
Laquan Francis. He knows them. He knows them. You know why? Because his godson, what's his name? Gilmore, constantly harasses my kids. One of the other public safeties had to tell him to leave my damn children alone.
But you won't file a complaint.
Why?
Because
Why?
we have to go to the Inspector General and say we have a
How many times I filed a complaint?
I don't know, how many?
Many of times.
What, do we have complaints on file?
I have filed myself.
What we've done, what the Public Safety Committee has done over the years is try to speak with Mr. Guerra about a variety of incidences, as Howard is aware, that have come forward to us. Every time, no change, no, we're never in the right. He always has an excuse or some way to manipulate. Listen, we have made complaints. You have lawsuits that are against. I had a complaint. I withdrew it so that I could be vetted for your board and so I could work on this committee. But I had an incident and I was sort of told, well, he should have been arrested. He did nothing. He was 15 and nobody called me. Why should he have been arrested walking down the street? And I had a witness. But somebody went to him and told him, no, you didn't see that, and harassed him every day at his job until he didn't see the incident. All of these people have stories. We have stories for you. On Thursday, we will give you all packets of the stories that people have brought to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Signed complaints.
And I tell you, when we get the list, we will go through each and every one.
That's exactly what we need.
And the complaints that I did fill out, Brian brought me into his office and told me how wrong my children were and how right his public safety officers
Every
were.
time. That's
So
what we
I don't know where those
I'm
complaints go.
just saying, give us the complaint.
But you have them. And they
So
don't
let me just understand something. So all of this time, being that you guys didn't have the complaints, you're not going to do anything about this? You're not going to do anything about what this man has done all this time?
No, I'm talking the complaints that we have.
Y'all need to fire him. That's what y'all need to do. We need to put complaints. Fire him. Then we'll be nice and sit down and talk about it.
Maybe there's some confusion.
Yes.
Can't hear the speaker.
Maybe there is some confusion. Do these folks need to file, can they file a complaint with you, with the RIOC board, and not with public safety?
Yes.
That's the question. I think the problem is that people have either filed complaints or have decided not to because.
At this point,
public
you have
safety-
complaints, bring them to the public, bring them to the operations committee. We will review each and every one.
Okay, so what the board is saying is that they need to have you in writing, express what has happened, and those would be complaints.
That's great.
And
But I
they need
think
to go.
I understand. And I'm a whole lot clearer in my writing.
No, but you need to do that because it needs to be something that is signed by the person. They
So,
need to do
are they
that.
gonna follow up on my
Wait a
complaints?
minute.
I've had 5 complaints. No one followed up with me.
Hold on.
I mean,
We're chasing our tails over here.
You have a point, Margie. The reason, though, that people have filed complaints, they've been stonewalled, bottled up, and diverted for all of these years, as I think Mr. Crowd alluded to earlier when he said you guys weren't on the ball. There's certainly a record. The problem was, until Anthony jumped, until that boy was almost killed, by their brutality, and no charges were filed against him. Until that incident, we were not totally organized. We were atomized. Guerra was able to play off and bottle things up. Those days are over. That's over. We're not going that route anymore. Now, we are not going to be bottled up. When I hear stuff like this, file a complaint, that's not where we're at right now. We will give you information. We have been tirelessly compiling case after case after case, document after document. Witnesses that were afraid to come forward before are coming forward. If you've been at that rally, you would have seen an eloquent one after another. You are going to get plenty of information, but this is not a technical question. This is not a bureaucracy question. This is not a question of how to fill out the form correctly or not. This is a political question that you are going to have to deal with. You have the power to end this regime, which is amply shown to have years of abuse, and you need to act to do that. We will provide the information, but we have done that. We have done that, but it's a new day now. It's a new situation now. Anthony Jones is changing. You've got a room full of people here that can get up one after another and tell you what
their story is.
Officers have done. And we need a new one. Put an ad in the New York Times and start interviewing people so we can get rid of this regime.
The incident you alluded to, I think it begins with the incident that involved Neil.
That Neil, yes.
I think that's where.
He was one of many, and I asked you all, I sent a letter asking you to look into that, and the Real Common Council voted unanimously and gave you a resolution asking for an investigation. You ignored it. I followed it up again.
You sent it to the Inspector General.
No,
Yeah, well, why don't you guys just fire him? If you can find a shame, you can find
They
it.
have resources that we don't have.
We're told that you guys are lazy. You are who we are supposed to go to for help. So we went to you and we said, please, do it. RIOC has a budget. RIOC could find money if they needed to do an independent investigation. We asked you to do that for Snooper. Nobody got back to me. Again, it happened again in January. I sent you another letter. Nothing. So, again, negligence on the part of the board, I'm not going to deny that to whatever extent. Mike was trying to do something. I appreciate that. But this is a long-standing problem. It isn't Anthony. It isn't McKeever. It's everybody here. Everybody here has a story. And Mr. Guerra knows it. Because I've gone to him. I had Inspector General letters that people wrote. I have letters that were written to you and the board. I have letters that were written to DHCR. So it's not like nobody ever told you. I told you. They told you in the paper, in the newspaper.
Somebody should have got back to you and tell you that's what we did.
Well, maybe someone should have told us what we need to do.
If this board said, we looked into it ourselves, and we don't think there's any wrongdoing, everyone would have went nuts and said, no, you need an independent inspector to inspect it. That's why we need to. And that's why we gave it to the Inspector General. He's the independent guy that we go to inspect it. Somebody should have got back to you.
I don't think the Inspector General is going to be able to help you. I'll tell you why. McKeever just explained to us what was on those tapes. Tape record is incomplete. The video. I'm not a lawyer. You all seen all the same cop shows that I have on TV, so you know that as evidence, that video wouldn't be real useful. And the reason is that what McKeever says happened. What McKeever says happened is the background of the story. And it answers the question I had: what was the young man doing on the street? Why are they in there arresting the guy in the first place?
Okay, let's
Wait, hang on a second. Let me finish my sentence, McKeever, and then you can start yelling again, all right? He was standing up, too. He promised last time he didn't stand up. This time he did. All right. And Inspector General looked at that tape and said, what? I see a bunch of cops. I see a bunch of cops trying to arrest the guy who's struggling. I see a bunch of other people. For some reason, they're moving in on the cops trying to arrest him. I said, now I'm talking about what you see with your eyes if you don't know the story.
We looked at it.
That's why you have to.
It's on you.
It's on you because you know that this isn't
You're
the
right.
first
You're right. You don't want to
It
get
happens
hung up
time
in
after
5
time.
years of litigation
That's
and
right.
bureaucracy and state bills
We
and
want to
this and
change
that.
now.
You have the
Sorry,
power.
not much listening.
You have the power.
You have the power to fire
Do
him.
what?
And you should do it.
Fire him.
Based on that tape?
Not that
Based on
all of the stuff that
based
all
on
the
hearsay.
time
Based
that
on
the
hearsay.
blotter says one thing and nothing happens. It's not what happens.
Mr. Chairman, can I do that?
Hearsay.
Mr. Chairman, can I be ready?
Under the First Amendment, I recognize Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I echo Makiva's points, which is I think the additional cameras and the other stuff is good for a variety of reasons, including the training that you point out and data gathering. But let me try to be really simple here, okay? It seems like we're off in another world where it's only real if it's on video. Sure, video helps, okay? But we're a country about people, okay? And we have a lot of stories here that could be investigated. So as Mr. Proud points out, yes, there are sections of that video, I think is a longer version, but yes, there are sections of that video. Normally the way that would be investigated was, aside from looking at the video, you would interview the officers, you would interview the witnesses, you would interview all around, and then you would try to come to a combined picture of a more holistic picture of what happened, and then make a determination. That is possible. That is the way these things are normally investigated, and the way these things are normally tried in court.